Dr. Cloud Show, and I'm glad that you have joined us for another version of the war against dysfunction that we fight one dynamic at a time by you changing just a few screws inside your head. That's all it takes. We just need to make little adjustments here and there, and then all the crazy stuff out there won't have a way to get in, and that and a bunch of other stuff we talked about here with our fantastic tribe who you guys are the best. You join each other on Facebook and YouTube and Instagram, and you support each other, and you're down this path of growth. And have you ever noticed that there's kind of like sort of a few different kinds of groups in the world? You know, in your neighborhood, you got some people that are just they're just going down the stream wherever life and their crazy dysfunctional patterns take them and their appetites and all of that. They end up where they end up, usually having a train wreck. And then there's those other people like you guys, and you all of a sudden the lights go on one day, and you think, I think I won't just live life. I think I will think about how I'm living my life. And if I do that, then maybe I'll live it in a different way and I'll actually have a better life. That's what we call an awakening. And that's what I get to do here, is to listen to you as you're going through your own awakenings. Nobody calls this show really that's not kind of waking up. So that's why you're the best. So let me tell you how to do it. You call a number that we always give out, 844. Wait, you know what? I am on the, you know what I've done here, guys? Now, this is way more information than you need to know. But I have, we started this program in lockdown for those of you who are new, and I'm kind of all on my own in my house. And that's why we set it up. And my team's all around the country, and they tell me who's calling in on my screen here. And that's how I get to you. And I had the wrong screen up. So we were about to go into darkness. Okay, here's the number, 844-940. Don't you love how high production this program is? 844-940-2774. 844-940-2774 to get on the show. 844-940-2774. And I do have a question about that. You know, we've been kind of discussing, so I used to do a syndicated radio show that, we were on, I don't know, 200 stations or so, I think at one time. Might still be New Life Live. Great bunch of folks. And I mean, it was a real, like, I had a studio and production and all this kind of stuff. And now I'm sitting in my living room, talking to you all by myself. And we've kind of been thinking maybe we should kind of like up our game a little bit and turn this into like a real thing that looks like a real something. I'd like to hear your opinion. Do you like the duct tape and coat hanger version like we do it? Or do you think we ought to maybe take it to the next level? I'm sorry. The information is the same. I like being casual myself. But anyway, I'd love to hear your feedback on that. Anyway, 844-940-277. But we need like lead-in music and all that kind of stuff. All right. Quick announcement. If you have a family and you have any dysfunction in that family, then we have a webinar coming up for you. And what do we mean by family? Well, that could be your immediate family, you know, which consists of the immediate, like you. Probably, if you're listening to this program, you're probably one of the parents and you got some kids. Or it could be the circle outside of that, which your family of origin. You got moms and dads that still exist, even though you're an adult and they're in your life. And then you got aunts and uncles and grandmothers and grandparents. And then underneath you, you might have adult children. And even they got, and this extended family can get large. And something happens about this time of year as we're approaching the holidays in another month or so. That season starts, we interact with those families and family circles even more. And the dysfunction even, we become less able to hide sometimes. Well, this isn't just a holiday event. It's not a holiday event. The webinar we have coming up is about extended family, but the dynamics will certainly play out in your holidays. So we're going to be talking about how we break destructive patterns so families don't break up. It's called When family hurts, breaking destructive patterns. And I'm sure we'll give you some tips on how to deal with some of these dynamics and also even how to deal with them in the holidays. So, how do you sign up? Go to boundaries.me/family. It's going to be on November 15th live for 2+ hours. We always design these to be 2 hours, and I end up going over because I just love talking to you guys. I love the content. I love these ideas. It's hard to get it all in sometimes. Anyway, 2+ hours, November 15th. If you can't be there live, you sign up for the live event now, and then you watch it the next day or the day after that, or stream it as many times as you want. Now, here's another thing a lot of people have been doing is putting their small groups together and some friends and inviting them over and putting it up on, the TV, on your smart TV or the laptop on the table, and everybody sits around and you talk about it. So that's how it works. And I will send you also an extensive PDF that has all the stuff that you can go study. So there we go. 844, I'm sorry, let me give you the website, boundaries.me/family to sign up. Here's our number, 844-940-2774. And as always on this program, I start out with a little thought for the day. Yesterday, I talked about the concentric circles, that happen in, I think it was yesterday, in family, and also in, that's going to go into your bigger life, but how you define family and where those kind of like right sizing which part of your family, immediate, extended family, who's got what kind of power to do what. And what I want to talk about today was a different family. And as we were talking about this before the program, I was going to talk about your non-biological family. And I think it was Greg on our team says, your family of choice. I said, wow, what a great, great way to put this. Now, here's the deal. You've all heard the phrase, maybe, you can't choose your family, but you can choose your friends, right? Well, that's true. That is profound, okay? But it's more profound if we say it this way. You can't choose your family, but you can choose your family. Now, what does that mean? Well, you can choose who becomes your spiritual family. And by spiritual, I don't just mean religious. I mean the people that do for you in adult life, that do for you what family was designed to do for you. It's interesting, in my faith, it's really interesting the way the New Testament describes this whole thing that we call, the Christian faith. And that is, it's not a rehab project. It's not a, my life's going on and, I start to follow Jesus and he tells me how to get better. That is not the metaphor that it uses. What it says is that when we start out into this new faith, you don't sign up for rehab. You get born again. Born. Now, what does born mean? Well, born means that you begin anew all over again, just like the first time. Because here's the thing. I don't know if you notice this or not, but everybody comes from a dysfunctional family. And I don't mean just that mom and dad are goofy or your sisters or brothers or you or anybody else. What I mean is we come from this family called the human race. And that family is dysfunctional. If you don't believe me, go read your history book or go look at today's newspaper, that the human race has a lot of dysfunction. And here's what we know about family. It creates patterns of that are familiar patterns, the ruts that we run in, the ways that we operate, the ways that we communicate or don't communicate, the way that we resolve conflict or don't resolve conflict, the way that we judge each other or don't judge each other, the ways that we empower each other or don't empower. We have ways, and those go down cycles, and they get passed on day after day after day, and then that turns into the next little sperm bank that goes into a new generation of all this craziness. And it runs amok, driven by biology, until somebody gets off of the biological train as defining what I'm going to define as family and gets onto the spiritual train of what I'm going to define as family. Now, that does not negate our biological family. In fact, I am a strong advocate and believer in multi-generational biological family ties, grandparents, parents, children, right? We need the multi-generational family ties. But sometimes that biological family doesn't mirror the spiritual dynamics that we need in order to thrive. And your biological family may or may not be one that is a family of thriving dynamics. It may be one that there's dysfunctional dynamics and even destructive dynamics. And that's where, when we are born again, what God says is, I'm going to place you as a baby. New Testament uses this phrase all the time. As babes, it says, places us in a new family, this body of believers, and we start all over. Okay, that's really cool. One of my favorite verses. One day they came to Jesus and they said, Jesus, your mother and brother and sisters are waiting for you. Come on, we got to go. And he didn't turn to him and say, well, hang on a second, I'm still talking to my pals here. Or, give me 5 minutes, or where do they want to go? He used that moment to make a point. And here's what he said. Who are my mother and brothers and sisters? But those who do the will of God. Now, what will means, whenever you see, most times when you see that word in the New Testament, that word means desire. So I'm going to paraphrase this. Now, wait a minute. I'll tell you who I'm going to call family. I mean, I know I have biological family, obviously. But my family, where I'm going to be familiar and where I'm going to dwell and where I'm going to live, is with people that do what God wants us to do with each other. That's where I'm going to hang out. That's my family. And that's the family of choice. And this is all throughout the scriptures. And it's all throughout the psychiatric literature and psychological literature. That we don't have a choice whether or not people affect us. They do. We're wired for that. That's like saying food doesn't affect me. You can't create food unless you create your own food first and feed yourself first, and then you can feed the world. Are you kidding me? Whoever came up with that crap? A baby doesn't start out in life and you say, well, you're not going to be able to love your brothers and sisters until you love yourself first. So start loving yourself. That's not how it works, people. A baby's got to be loved and put love into them. And then those patterns become familiar of being nice and empathy and care. And then they go and they do that in the family. We have familiar patterns of how we do things in this house. And so it's where we get it. It's where we get the good stuff. It's where you get the food of life. So when Jesus said, who are my mother and brothers and sisters? He said, I'm going to hang out with people that do things God's way, and I'm going to choose who those people are. And I'm going to choose to place myself into a community that does what a family does to sustain and grow humans. And that starts out with, just like a baby, trust. So I want you to put your thinking cap on and love your biological family. And I hope they do things the way that God desires for them to do. But you've also got to say, if I'm going to have a life that thrives, I got to do some good people picking, because I get to choose this spiritual family. And there's going to be some certain dynamics in that spiritual family. I think if you're going to be born again, which if we come to faith, that's when we enter the door. And Jesus said, nobody is going to get there. Everybody's born of the flesh, born of the water. We all come to the earth the same way, but you don't go to the next earth without being born either. You got to be born into the spirit, you said. And when we do that, then we enter into this new family. And what does that family need to contain? Okay. Number one, trust. A baby comes in the world, and the people have to be safe enough where that baby can trust them and lean on them and take in love and internalize it and get to be strong, because those people are trustworthy, and because they care and they show up and they respond to their needs and they empathize and they don't hurt the baby, and your heart is very vulnerable. And you need to put yourself in a group of people you can trust. Number one, that your needs matter to them. That's what a baby needs. All right. Well, then the baby starts to grow a little bit. Now, what do you need? You need to be introduced to a word you're not going to like. The word no. You're going to go touch the stove, and they're going to go, no, don't do that. Well, I want to. No, don't do that. And they tell you, no, don't use heroin. Stop being promiscuous. You're going to hurt yourself. Change that attitude. You're not going to have friends. And they teach us, people that love us, that we can trust. They'll tell us, what you're doing is not good. And we learn to listen. We say, okay, sorry, Mom, I won't do that anymore. Maybe, and we grow up, and then we kind of internalize those limits, and then we kind of get something called self-control. And when you have self-control, then you not only can hear no and hear how you need to change, but you can also say no. And so then that kid can go out on the playground and somebody puts dirt on their hair and they go, no, don't do that. I don't like that. I'm not going to play with you if you don't. That's called boundaries. And then they don't wind up with addicts because they say no to destruction. And that's what your spiritual family should empower you to do. Empower you to stand up to abuse. Empower you to stand up to things that are hurting you. Empower you to learn to say no. But it takes a group of people around you that you choose that are trustworthy to support you in order to strengthen those boundaries and say, we will stand with you when you're being abused. We will go have the intervention with you. We will take you to the count, whatever it is. And that's what this spiritual family of choice does next. We trust them and they meet our needs. They strengthen us, teach us to hear no and have self-control, say no to ourselves, say no to destruction, and say no to and have self-control and say no to others. And then thirdly, you know what that family does? It helps you with your owies. What happens to a kid as they grow up and mature? We fall down. I'm hurting. Okay, yeah, that's bad. Here, come here. I'll lick your wounds with you. As one of my favorite verses says, I'll weep with you while you weep. My dog died. Oh, that's terrible. Come cry with me. Or worse than that, I remember I first got introduced to it and I was 4 years old, 5 years old. One of my best friends died. See, children go through losses. Adults go through losses. Thank God I had a family that I could go cry with. Or in my life, when I went into a wheelchair when I was 4 years old. Thank God I had a family to help me walk through that and the pain. And see, you need a family that helps you process failure, losses, woundedness that the world inflicts upon you. tragedies that happen. You need that kind of family. See, a lot of the biological families that you might have inherited don't do that. That's why we need to choose one, a spiritual family. And then you get to go out there, and the next thing you do is, wow, I really like math. Oh, you do? Well, let's get you a workbook. Let's develop that talent. Well, look at this old piece of crap tool shit. I'm gonna go fix it up, mommy, daddy. Okay. Let me show you how to do it. Here's a hammer, solve it, and then you fix up the tool shed. Hey, why don't we go? And you get bigger, and then you're doing fixer up houses, and then you're turning them around and selling them, and then I like to cook. Okay, well, let's see what the family does. It comes and recognizes your talents and supports you and mentors you and builds you so you can go build a life. And all of that happens in our spiritual family, our network of people that grow us up like God made us to be from day one, which is always about family. He put people on the earth and said, be fruitful and multiply and build generations of goodness. And he gave them his principles and said, go and spread these throughout the earth. And then some people said, well, they flipped him off and said, I don't want anything to do with you. And went and started a bunch of dysfunctional patterns that have nothing to do with what he wants. And so now he says, who's going to be my family? Well, the ones that do it the way it was designed to do, with love and compassion and forgiveness and encouragement and skills building and using your talents and multiplying and being fruitful and being profitable. But that takes a tribe to join and be in to develop us. And that is what we mean by your family of choice. So I hope and pray, and I know it happens, and we see it every day, and I support it every way I can. I hope and pray that your biological family is part of your family of choice too, as you become adults, that you are enriching those relationships with parents and grandparents and adult children and cousins. In our family, we had a birthday party last night. I feel it. My sister-in-law had a big birthday, and we had a dinner, and the extended family gathered around, and the richness and the support and the beauty of that. And this is, it's our biological family and through marriage. And I hope you have that in your biological family. But you know what? There were some other equally beautiful birthday parties that happened last night. I wasn't there. I didn't see them, but they happened. And you know where they happened? They didn't happen with blood relatives. They happened with some people that came from very dysfunctional and abusive and horrible backgrounds, but that God reached in and brought them out and helped them find a new family, a family of choice. And that's their spiritual family. And I guarantee you last night, there were people sitting in circles, in recovery groups, in small groups, circles of friends, that they're not blood relatives, but they made the choice to surround themselves with people and said, we're going to do this God's way. We're going to trust each other and be there for each other. We're going to help each other get control of our lives. We're going to help each other lick our wounds and get over our griefs and failures and pains. And we're going to build each other's talents. And they weren't blood relatives in those circles. They were families of choice. And that's what we talk about every day on this program in some form or fashion. Who is your family of choice? I hope maybe there's some blood relatives. I was with my family of choice last night. And it's also blood relatives and marriage relatives. That can be, and I hope it is. But you got to have that circle bigger than that as an adult. You can't just have your immediate and extended family as your support system. You got to have some family of choice there too. But some of you don't have that option because you've got some pretty destructive people that you've had to get away from. But you don't have to be without family. That's the message here this morning. Is one of my favorite verses. I just told you, Jesus said, "Who's my family?" Well, I'm going to pick the ones that I become familiar with. Family. We're familiar with each other. We know each other's ways. We know each other's pains. We are family, even if we're not blood relatives. That's the family of choice. And I hope you get it. 844-940-2774 is the number to call. 844-940-2774. Speaking of family, we're going to be having a 2-hour webinar about family dysfunction and family patterns. If you're just tuning in, it's going to be on November 15th. Go to boundaries.me/family to get signed up for that. 2 hours called When Family Hurts, Breaking Destructive Patterns in Your Immediate Family, Your Extended Family, and Beyond. That's what we're going to talk about. Go to boundaries.me/family to sign up. All righty. Let's see how we are doing here. Let me get my trust. You know what they told me when I wear my glasses, it gets a glare. So sorry, guys. Where are we? Okay, Jonathan calling us, watches on Facebook, calling us from Oregon, and looks like, Jonathan, you got a question about dating. How are you, man?
Hi, sir. Doing well. Thank you for having my call.
You're welcome. How can I help you?
Well, my situation, sir, is that I've been in a relationship for going on 10 years with a woman, and I'm to the point where I would like to end the relationship, but I need your insight into some of the dynamics because I want to make sure that I'm doing the right thing.
You want to make sure if your decision to end it is the right thing, or you want to make sure you're ending it in the right way?
I think I'm good on how to end it because I read Necessary Endings, but I want to make sure I'm doing the right thing. I'm doubting myself, I guess.
Well, I would bet, Jonathan, now I'm just going to take a guess here. You've been dating for 10 years?
That's correct. Well, going on it. We met October 2012.
Okay. So you've been together for 10 years. You're not married. So unless you don't believe in marriage, then I'm going to have to say there's been some sort of ambivalence in this relationship for a long time, right? Some sort of something's not quite everything it needs to be. Is that right?
You're precisely correct. Yes.
Okay. So what is that? Because most times, I'm going to tell you, if I have to roll the dice, unless there's some good external reason for whatever, most of the times, dating relationships that go on a long time, but they can't ever quite, take that step. Most of the times, there's something wrong. There's something missing.
Yes.
Or there's something that's there that you need to be missing. Right? So tell me what that is.
Precisely.
And there's a resistance to let it go because the pain is too much. And, I love them. When we break up, we got to get back together. I miss you. And then they never end it, and they keep going on forever.
Wow. Have you read my journal? That's exactly what's been going on. But essentially, we both have trauma. And then I have some mental issues. We're both Christian. We do believe in Jesus Christ as our Lord and Savior. So obviously there's been that spiritual element of feeling like we're not honoring him.
Jonathan, you may be my new best friend. I love to hear people say, I'm this and this. And, I've got some mental issues. I love to hear that because it's the people, when we know we've got issues, we're much better people to be in relationships with than the ones that don't think they have issues. So, Jonathan, I'm glad you're my new friend. All right, so keep going. You're
Well, thank
both
you, sir.
followers of Jesus. That's the last thing you said.
Correct. But yes, what's occurred is that we both come from trauma, and the reason we've been in this holding pattern is that I personally am afraid of getting into a marriage where I feel more like I have to shoulder the burden of, complete, like there's no reciprocity on the emotional. I feel like the relationship revolves around her and her needs, and that's fine because I am supposed to be the leader, but it would be nice to have a partnership rather than a parent-child situation. And as I've grown over the last 10 years, I felt like I've kind of held out my hand saying, come along with me on this growth of maturity, of putting away childish things and kind of trying to be more mature in our thoughts, beliefs, behaviors, and actions. And so it came. The reason for the call, we went on
you don't want a patient or a project or somebody that you're trying to fix or help, or you want a partner.
Bingo. Yep.
Okay. So what's the question?
I think I've derived a lot of my.
If all things are as you've said, that isn't, you're not, kind of like, not that we don't help each other, but that you're not kind of both mutually there for each other in the same way like a relationship ought to be, then that kind of answers your question, right? If all things are as you said they are.
But am I just being selfish? I mean, I feel like she tries.
Stop. Hang on. Listen to my words. If all things are as you said they are, then no, you're not being selfish.
Okay.
If all things are as you said it. Now, there are some people that distort things, and she's a perfectly healthy, wonderful, giving woman, and you just can't see it. I don't know you, I don't know her. But if all things are as you've said they are, that you're the one always giving, and there's it's not mutual, then that's not selfish at all. That's why people make choices in relationships to, I love you, and there's a lot of things that I like about our being together, but it's not everything I need and everything that I want. That's typically when a dating relationship ends.
Right. Is it salvageable?
Salvageable. That's an interesting word. Salvage? I mean, first of all,
right, it has the connotation of a wreck, but
yeah, we're talking about a human being here, right? I wouldn't look at her as salvage. I think what you're asking is there hope that this relationship could become one that's mutually satisfying?
Right.
All right. Well, certainly that's the business I'm in. If I didn't believe that were true, then I wouldn't be doing this. But that presupposes a bunch of factors. I'm going to guess if it hasn't for 10 years, then I would just want to know what would be the magic button that somebody's going to push that's going to make it happen next year.
Yeah.
Not that button doesn't exist.
That's a good question.
I just want to know what it is.
Well, I think part of it would be just taking responsibility for our actions, our thoughts, our beliefs. I mean, moving out from our parents' house, living an adult life, you know what I mean, type of thing.
Wait. Our parents' house. You guys both live with your parents?
No, I've been quite successful by the grace of God, and I have a business, my own place, and multiple vehicles and this and that. But she still lives with her mom, and because her credit is not so great, she can't get her own lease. So it's just yet another area where I've had to like kind of draw outside of the lines to make sure that
Okay.
she has a good, yeah.
All right. So I don't know all of her
I think her and her
situation, but
mom are
why is it this, that, and
toxically
the other?
codependent.
Okay. So, but
Like,
and I don't have time to really examine it I wish we did, but we don't, to know exactly what goes into all of that. But what you're describing, as I'm going to use the phrase again, if things are as you say, then it doesn't sound like she's ready to be in a relationship anyway. She doesn't have control of her own life. And how can you be in a relationship with somebody else if you don't have a certain sense of being above the waterline yourself? So I don't even know if you weren't in the picture and I were talking to her, and if she was saying, my life is upside down, I'm entangled with my mother, I can't be on my own 2 feet, I don't have impulse control because I've overspent and all this, I would say, what are you doing even thinking about being in a relationship? You're not ready.
Yeah, so anyway. I think she would say that she's doing the best she can. Yeah, I appreciate you. I do, and everything.
I don't. Hey! This is nothing pejorative about her. I can think back times in my life I wasn't ready for a relationship, but I was doing the best I could, and then I became ready. Right? That's not a bad thing. You're just asking me, are you doing the right thing to begin to? Again, if things are as you say, if you guys are not at a mutually, and people can go through hard times and be in mutually satisfying relationships because both parties are taking responsibility and on their own path of growth, and this, that, and the other. I'm not saying you need perfect people, but you're saying that she doesn't really take responsibility for their life and for her life, and you don't want to be in that kind of relationship. So I got to run, but that's kind of how it sounds to me.
Thank you. I appreciate it, Dr. Cloud.
But I'm not saying anything that you haven't told me. See, that's what I want you to hear also. There's some kind of fear that keeps you from listening to what you've told me.
That's
maybe
true.
It's just
it's fear of loneliness, I guess.
Could be. Maybe you need to get that spiritual family together to plug that loneliness. It could be just that you love her so much that it's going to be very painful to break up. That's going to be hard after 10 years. It could be a lot of things. But I think after 10 years, it's either, you could make a decision. I love her so much. I am going to walk this path with her. And I have hope and I have a belief that she is somehow going to wake up and start to take responsibility for these issues. Of course, I would want to see that first if I were you. But if you could make that choice, but go in with your eyes wide open. Okay. Thank you for your call, Jonathan. I appreciate what would be the word? How cognizant you are of all the issues. I'm going to gift you our webinar, Restoring Our Brokenness. It may be something good that you guys can think about together. Okay, let's talk to Becky, who's on YouTube calling us from Nevada. Becky, welcome to the Dr. Cloud Show.
Hi, Dr. Cloud. Can you hear me?
I can hear you very well. Can you hear me?
I can hear you perfect. Thank you.
Good.
Thank you so much for taking my call.
You're welcome. How can I help you?
Yes. Thank you. I have a 12-year-old and a 13-year-old stepsons, and lately they've been fighting a lot. And over the last year...
I just need to clarify you have a 12-year-old that's yours and you have a 13-year-old stepson, or they're both stepsons?
They're both stepsons. They're both my stepsons,
both
but they are brothers.
Okay. And you've been married to their dad for how long?
We've been together, married for 2.5 years, together for almost 8 years.
8 years.
So I've known the boys
since they were little.
Yeah, kindergarten and first grade.
Okay. And were you involved in their life from that early age, or were you kind of out there, y'all were dating and you got more involved after you got married?
Very involved in their lives, yeah. We have my husband has a 50-50 shared custody agreement with their mom, so
Okay. And do
Very
they
involved.
kind of,
Yeah.
do they kind of like, to them, are you sort of kind of like mom, if you will, not their only mom, but or are you like, it's my dad, my mom, and then there's Becky too.
Right. Well, the 12-year-old, which is the one I'm actually calling about, he wanted to call me mom. I'd say probably about 4 years ago. He said, "Can I call you mom?" And I said, "Sure." Stepmom or mom. But their real mom didn't like that, so they called me Rebecca. But yes,
Okay.
they look at me as a mother figure.
They feel that
Yes.
way. Okay.
Yes.
So what is the question?
Yes.
What's the question? Sounds like they're lucky to have you.
Oh, thank you. I'm lucky to have them. There's just been an issue where things have really escalated in the house, and it's just becoming worrisome.
I lost you.
She's still
Are you
connected.
there? Becky, we lost you somehow. Becky, do you have a mute button? Well, okay, while we're trying to get Becky back on, Albie, why don't we talk to Rebecca from Nashville? Can you get to her?
You got to give me just 2 seconds here.
We could play the Jeopardy theme. Doon, 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 doon. Dun, 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 dun. I heard a voice. Who's that?
Hey, I've actually got Becky back from Nevada. Sorry, I don't know what happened there.
Okay.
All
right, Becky. Last thing I heard was
okay, can you
things
hear me,
have gotten
Becky?
something around the house. Have we got her? Becky?
Yeah,
Hello, I'm here. Hi.
Okay. So last thing I heard was something's going on in the house. You said things have gotten something in the house.
Right. So the boys are they're getting stronger, they're getting older, and they're starting to get physical and fighting. And there's been this I want to call it an obsessive compulsive pattern that the 12-year-old has developed over the last year. And he kind of has this, he can get into these patterns. He's always kind of been this way, but it's just getting really negative now, where he says this, "Shut up, stupid, I'm better than you."
To his brother?
And I know it kind of sounds, he says it to his brother, and he says it constantly. And it's almost as if he cannot even stop himself. And we've tried everything. We've gotten him into counseling. We've gotten him into the church, into the teen rooms at the church to open up and talk about his feelings. We put him in extracurricular activities like cooking and acting. We've tried separating the boys. We got him tested for ADHD, ADD, autism. Nothing came back. And he just will not stop. And I don't know how to help him break this pattern of "shut up, stupid, I'm better than you."
Is the other brother kind of engaging in this back at him, or is the other brother kind of clear of all this?
Right. So no, he's definitely not a golden child. There is a little bickering back and forth, and sometimes he instigates it, and I will correct him when I see it and I hear it. And I'll tell the two brothers, "Tell your brother you love him and that you're sorry," to try and de-escalate the situation before it gets out of control.
And what do they both salute and say, "Sorry, Mom. Okay, I love you, bro. Let's go play ball"? Do they do that?
They've gotten better at it. It took a while, but they've definitely gotten better. But sometimes
so they did show the capacity to change.
They have shown compassion towards each other, yes, and change. But 10 minutes later, the 12-year-old is, "Shut up, stupid, I'm better than you." Shut up.
What do you do then?
So we've tried things like, one of the disciplinary actions we've been using is like exercises, like push-ups, sit-ups, walk around the block, jumping jacks, squats, because we don't want to be physical. We don't want to physically discipline him. So
is that painful for them to walk around the block?
Well, he certainly doesn't want to do it, and he's getting his exercise, so we think it's a win-win situation. But we've also tried. I've tried recently I tried where I had the brothers write each other a letter of how much they love each other and appreciate each other.
Yeah, but
and that was
they go ahead.
it was kind of helpful. There were some good things they said about each other, but then it goes right back to the making fun of each other and putting each other down. So it was
okay. So where's Dad? Where's Dad in all this? What's he doing?
So Dad is trying to do everything that he can. Also, I'm a pretty much stay-at-home mom. He is working a lot. So when he does come home, I tell him, you know, this is what's happened, this is what's going on. And so that Dad, he will talk to him. He tries to do things that I suggest. He tries to do things his mom, grandma suggests. We're trying to do things that the real mom is, you know, we're all trying so many different things, and it just seems like nothing is working. We cannot get these two boys, and especially the 12-year-old, to stop with the shut up, stupid, I'm better than you, because that's how it starts. And then the older brother wants to be physical and attack him because he won't stop.
Okay. And what happens when if I'm one of the boys and I'm physical and I attack my brother? What happens to me?
We've separated them. They're separated, and the two boys, what's interesting about this is the two boys have not actually physically fought here. They started physically fighting at their mom's house. And so the mom's boyfriend has been the one who's been pulling them apart and separating them. But my biggest concern is there's a little girl, there's also their little sister at their mom's house who's a kindergartner. The 12-year-old has been hitting her.
What?
He's been hitting her, and he tells her, shut up, stupid, I'm better than you, and he will hit her.
What is happening when he's hit the little girl?
So this is at the mom's house. And so, you know, I have really no control over and really don't know the exact story. But what we've been told is that the boyfriend is getting involved in trying to pull the boys apart because they've gotten so strong. They're stronger than their mom. And she can't pull them apart and separate them.
Yeah. And you've taken them to a professional licensed psychologist? Have you done that?
The 12-year-old is seeing a professional licensed therapist, family therapist.
Does this therapist know that he's hit his sister?
I don't know, because I have not personally talked to her myself. She's talked to the mom and she's talked to the dad, but I have not personally talked to her myself.
Yeah. There's a couple of things here. One, my biggest concern right now is for the little girl. And so I'm going to have to talk to you and get some information, because somebody really needs to look into this. This is dangerous for this child. Okay.
I agree.
Number one.
I agree.
And I'm assuming that licensed person, has this been reported? Have they done a home inspection or anything?
There has not been a home inspection, and there's a little bit more to the story that maybe I don't really want to share.
Okay, I'll talk to you.
But
you know what? I'll have to talk to you about this off the air, because I'm not gonna. I can't let this go without making sure this child's okay. Okay, but here's and unfortunately, this is way more than we can do in a short phone call here. But what I would do is, it is whatever is happening and is happening. And this is just a general principle. Whatever we're getting, whatever behavior we're getting from a kid, we're tolerating it. Okay, does that make sense?
Yes.
If it's happening, it's being allowed to happen. Now, understand there's been many, many things tried to kind of stop that. But whatever has been tried has not reduced these budding, omnipotent, powerful, aggressive drives in this kid, reduced him to a place of learning that I'm not in control. I am not allowed to continue to do this. He hasn't hit that limit yet. Okay. And something's got to be more significant. This can't be allowed to continue. It's not good for him. It's not good for either one of them. Now, the other thing is, I really the way you're describing this, was he evaluated by a psychiatrist? You've mentioned obsessive compulsive many times. So did he
Yes,
have a psychiatric evaluation? And did they
Yes, he had a
determine
psychiatric
this?
evaluation.
And they just said this is a behavior problem? Psychiatrically, he's fine. He just needs some discipline. Is that what they said?
The psychiatrist suggested medication.
For what?
It was because he said, what was it? I'm trying to think of what the medication was. Something about the neurons or something in the brain.
He didn't give you a diagnosis, though.
No, he did a questionnaire. There's been no blood work. He just gave him a questionnaire, and he
Well, you don't need blood work a lot of
basic
times to do a clinical diagnosis. But here's what I'm wondering. Look, I would want to know. The way you're describing it, I would just want to make sure that all the biological stuff is okay and get a good psychiatric evaluation. But what he really needs is a really good adolescent psychologist or therapist that knows how to structure and help you guys to get the boundaries and limits in a way that he's not still under the belief that he can get away with this. This is not okay. It's got to stop. And something, whatever disciplinary measures have been taken, I don't mean, harsh kind of punishment, et cetera. But what I mean is something where he realizes, if I do this, I'm going to end up in a situation that I don't like. And exercising as good as it is in a win-win, that's not providing the deprivation for him that he needs to feel in order to feel powerless. That's A.
Right.
B is there's something in him. If you notice the content of what he's saying, I'm better than you, I'm more powerful than you, whatever it is, he's trying to overcome some sense of deep kind of powerlessness, it sounds like, where he's trying to exert power to prove to somebody or himself that he's not. And we got to get, I would think, if I were looking at this, I'd wonder, what is he feeling so powerless about that he's always on this path to try to prove how powerful he is? I'm better than you, or whatever it is he says. So there's a getting to the underlying issue here that's really important, and you'll never get that unless the limits and consequences are such that he stops the behavior. Does that make sense to you? And it sounds like that's a little squishy.
And we have gone as far as I've sat him down and I've explained to him at the age that they are, there is now, he's under, legally, he could go to, I didn't say jail, but I said, what is it called for the teens? They go to, a
lot of options. He may need a residential treatment center, for example, or a residential home or something like that. I mean, what he's got to learn is people that live in this house don't hit each other. Now, you've got a choice. If you want to live in this house, then you can't be hitting each other. Okay? Now, what I would want him to do is experience jail before you get to having to go to jail. So instead of maybe, and I'd have to know the whole situations, but I would want limits all of it to, how do you like sitting in a chair for 3 hours, unable to play anything or whatever it is, that something has got to get to the point that it gets his attention. But we're going to get some info from you. Unfortunately, I mean, I'd like to talk longer, but I'm giving you 3-pronged approach here. One is, I really would want, if medication were, did he take the medicine?
No, we decided to do an herbal supplement called saffron first and try that. It's like an herbal supplement that's
why did y'all decide that?
Similar to an antidepressant.
Why did y'all decide that?
We decided not to do, the whole family kind of decided. We were sort of split on if, and we got the whole family involved, the grandmas, everybody kind of had a say.
I understand what you decided. Why did y'all decide that following the doctor's advice was not a good idea?
We decided that we would try the herbal home.
I understand.
Like,
I understand.
and
That
if that
you decided.
and if that
I'm
didn't
trying
work, right?
I
And if that
understand
didn't
it.
work,
I'm trying to
then we
understand
would go
why.
to the prescription.
But why?
Because
I'm
we were
just-
concerned about the side effects. We were concerned about the side effects, and there was a concern for the side effects, that it might be too hard for him to deal with the side effects.
Okay, it's hard to know without knowing the medicine and what they're prescribing. But I do want you to, if it were me and my child, I would want to be very open to the possibility that there could be some sort of medical condition here, because we see it, and I know it's real, and it can be helpful. In other words, I wouldn't just be against that. That's my version of this.
And I think the other part of it was because he didn't test positive for any of the ADHD or the autism or the ADD or any of the other tests that were running. He didn't come up positive for any of those.
Well, you're not really talking
tests.
about what you've described to me. You haven't really talked about an ADD problem. You're talking about an aggressive problem and an impulse control problem. It could be an agitated depression. There's a lot of stuff that this could be that's not ADD.
Okay.
That's why I really would want a good medical understanding of this if it were my child.
We did talk to the therapist about it as well, as far as our decision, and she agreed that the decision to try the herbal remedy first.
You tried the herbal remedy. Did it work?
Well, he's been on it for about 3 weeks, and it takes about 2 weeks for it to get into the system. So,
and do you see any difference?
I'm seeing a little bit of a difference, but it's not exactly what we're going for here.
Okay. I'm going to let you be the judge of that, but I'm just telling you my perspective, that I think somebody's got to be looking. Look, behavior has biological components to it, it has psychological components, it has dynamic components, it has contextual components. So there's a lot of different, we're looking at a kid struggle like this. We got to look at all the different pieces. And I just want you to be open to maybe there's a medical piece. Secondly, I think you've really got to ask the psychologist or the counselor, what's the next level of limits and consequences that we can use, so we don't have to find the big ones. What you're always trying to do is bring jail to a kid before they have to go to jail. That's kind of what all of us need, right?
Right.
And so we're not finding that place yet where he's sitting there going, "Oh, I better not do this, or something bad's going to happen." He hasn't found that yet, or he's unable biologically, neurologically to contain himself, and that's what I would want diagnosed. And then thirdly, somewhere where he's got to get to, why does he feel so little and inferior? So unfortunately, we're out of time. I wish I could talk to you longer, Becky. I loved your commitment to these boys. It sounds like the dynamic that you've had with them is really special. But some way this kid is his brain isn't getting the message that he's not in control, and either that because it can't and it needs some help, or because the limits haven't been strong enough, or the drive underneath it of the whatever the pain and trauma may be that's pushing against the ability to control, is kind of losing it, or the relationship with other brother. I don't know what it is, but that's got to be looked at as well. Okay. Wow, we are up against the clock here. I wish we could continue to talk to everybody, but call me back. We'll be here tomorrow. All of that will be happening right here. Again, there's so much going through my head with this that it needs to be evaluated. I wish we could. Sometimes when we talk, I wish we had a long time to do this. There's a lot of things to unravel. But you know what? I just want to take one thing from the things that Becky said. We're complicated creatures, these humans, and we have biological life. I mean, your brain runs on hardware, which is your physical equipment. wiring, organ systems. Your brain is part of an organ system. You have, endocrinological issues that are going on, hormones and all of that stuff. You've got neurotransmitters. You've got blood sugar, glucose issues that can affect behavior. You've got thyroid issues. Our behavior and our thinking and our psychological functioning is always partly biologically determined. Bipolar illness, depression, some anxiety states, some ADD, ADHD kind of stuff. There's strong biological components, and we can't disregard that sometimes biology may be involved. And some people have a bias against biological interventions. I am not one of those people. I strongly believe in appropriate medicine, okay, especially for the quote psychological issues that have strong biological markers and biological determinants. I've seen miracles happen. Number two, there is our psychology, which is composed of our own structural integrity inside. I don't mean integrity in the moral sense, how integrated our equipment works. You've got biological hardware, but you've also got psychological hardware. What's our impulse control, our ability to emotionally regulate, our ability to create sustaining attachments, our ability to actually see things differently and say, I'm sorry, and apologize and have empathy and all this kind of stuff. That's all that goes into our software. We call the psychology of this. And then there's the relational context in which we find ourselves. Maybe the power imbalance between the 13-year-old and the 12-year-old. That's a relational context. Or maybe it has to do with being split between two. I don't know. I don't know the particulars, but we all exist in relationship. And that is a force field of dynamics that determines even our biological makeup at times. Relationships can change your biology. And we exist in a triad: physical, metaphysical, which is spiritual and mental, and then relational. And you always got to look at those three parts of the stool. And all of that exists in a larger context called a system. And that's a family system, oftentimes a church system, a professional system, and all of those interact with what one of my favorite verses says, that you are fearfully and wonderfully made. What I want you to do is make sure that when you try to solve your life problems, that you're looking at all of those components. Because the spiritual, notice I didn't mention spiritual as a component, because you know what I believe? I believe all of that has to do with our spiritual life, that we are made to be in relationship with God, in relationship with each other. And when we do that, according to his ways, the way the designer has designed us to live, then biologically we will be better. Relationally, we will be better. Psychically or psychologically, whatever word you want to use, metaphysically, we will be better. And our whole context of how we interact with the systems that we both build and live within will be better. So let's look at all of life. And when you run into problems, a lot of times it's because whoever's trying to help, the old saying, if all you have is a hammer, everything looks like a nail. And so they think it's all biology, or they think it's all the relationship, or they think it's all the kid's psychological makeup, or the person, or they think it's all the system. The environment did this to me. I'm 100% a victim. No, it's all of that. So look at all of it. And in my belief, when we do that, there's some good answers. Okay, guys. Always good to be with you. You know what? As I looked at my screen to see if there's any more announcements, don't forget our webinar. We got a 2-hour webinar coming up November 15th. When Family Hurts is the name of it. When Family Hurts, breaking destructive patterns, coming up November 15th right here. 2 hours. If you can't make the live event, sign up for the live event. You can stream it afterwards to your heart's content. And here's how you sign up. Go to boundaries.me/family. boundaries.me/boundaries. And while you're there, become a subscriber to boundaries.me. It's all sorts of courses on there to learn from. All righty. that's it for today. See you guys tomorrow. Bye bye.